Whoa, look at this. It's almost like we're walking on some sort of freaky alien landscape. But no, this isn't another planet. We're back on Route 66. I'm all the way back in Southern California, just north of Los Angeles, San Bernardino, just alongside old Route 66, looking at some of the damage from the Blue Cut Fire. Just a little bit over 6 months ago, I kicked off a road trip that went down a huge portion of old Route 66 and eventually all the way across the country to the Atlantic Ocean. And I'm back today to see what remains of one of my first stops on that trip. It's just over this fence up here. What is now an empty parking lot was once the site of a Route 66 landmark, the Summit Inn. From 1952 all the way till 2016, a landmark restaurant stood right there. But thanks to the Blue Cut Fire, all that's left now is the historic sign. I went down across Route 66, came back, it was still here, went back out to Arizona for a little while, and it burned down. Pretty wild. That fire destroyed a lot of stuff up here in the Cajon Pass. Down there, just over the crest of that hill, is San Bernardino and Orange County and LA County. And that is the main artery from all those areas up into the high desert of California on the way to Vegas or out towards Arizona and old Route 66. And the Summit Inn was historically the first stop for those going east up here in the desert and the last stop for those traveling almost down to the beach. Now it's gone. What's really wild is you saw all that fire damage down there and it came up and got the Summit Inn. But if you look to the north of the now empty Summit Inn lot, you'll see that the gas station right next to it survived, and all the way on the south side of the property, there's some other buildings that also survived. So it seems like only the Summit Inn was fatefully and mortally wounded. From what I understand, there are plans in place to restore the Summit Inn and build a new version of it up here. And luckily their historic neon sign mostly survived the blaze, so who knows? Maybe once again, we'll see a Route 66 landmark come back to life. I just got back to Southern California from Tombstone, Arizona the other day, rested for a day, saw my family, and now I'm back at it again. Heading up old Route 66 out into the Mojave Desert to visit another place that's pretty familiar to us. That's right, we're back on Route 66 to head up and visit the Old West. Wow, how about that, huh? There's a lot of nothing in the California desert. Can you imagine coming out here more than 100 years ago, 150 years ago, and settling this area? Head west, everyone. It's the land of opportunity. As weird as this may sound, looking at this today, this really was the land of opportunity back in the Old West. We drive through stuff like this looking for McDonald's, but the old timers, they were driving through stuff like this in their wagons and on their mules looking for gold. And sometimes they found it. Today we're headed back to one of my favorite places on the world, Calico Ghost Town. I love this place. I've got a lot of good memories out in Calico. And apparently so do a lot of other people, because in 2005, our then governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, come on, that's right, I'm the governor, declared this place California's official Silver Rush Ghost Town. Now, if you've seen my other videos of Calico, you'll know that Calico is very touristy. But as you'll see from our first stop, it was a real town. Look at this, it's the Calico Cemetery. Calico became a silver mining town in 1881, which is right around the same time the Earp brothers were shooting it out with the cowboys at the OK Corral. At that time, it was silver fever in the Old West. Nevada had Virginia City and the Comstock Lode, Arizona had Tombstone, and California had Calico. For being such a short-lived boomtown, Calico has a lot of graves in the cemetery still. Some of the people in this graveyard were moved to other graveyards, but they're still actually burying people here as recently as 2014. By the 1920s and 30s, Calico the town had been all but abandoned, but these pioneers, they remain. Now, unlike Tombstone, which became a tourist attraction pretty much overnight, it took until 1951 for Calico to become a tourist attraction. And yes, that's the same Walter Knott who built the ghost town on his berry farm. By the time old Walter got out here in 1951, there was almost nothing left of Calico. After all, the town had been more or less abandoned for 50 years. People were probably like, Walter, you're crazy. There's nothing out there in Calico. But Walter was all like, I do not care. Get it? I do not care. Not. Never mind. Look at this, man. Look at Calico today. Dead quiet. Walter Knott owned this place for about 15 years. And by the time he was done with it, the tiny handful of adobe walls and old wood structures that were left had become a town again. In 1966, Walter Knott sold Calico Ghost Town to San Bernardino County. And since then, it's become a county park. And it's stayed a tourist attraction this entire time. There were real silver mines in there, and this really was an old Wild West silver mining town. But if you look around, you'll see a lot of things that remind you of the ghost town in Knott's Berry Farm. In the 19-teens and 20s, Walter Knott was out there down in the desert trying to run a farm with his family. And he actually came up here to Calico to work on a short-lived revival of the town. They were building some cyanide plants and trying to get more silver out of all the old mine tailings. Back in the 1800s when they were digging up all the silver, they left a lot of rock with like little tiny pieces of silver that weren't worth it for them to get out of the rock at that time. So they were trying to get what was left. And anyway, Walter Knott came up here and did a little work on some of the cyanide tanks and things. So seeing the ruins of what was once a thriving western mining boom town really had an influence on Walter Knott. Kind of funny because Walter Knott built his ultimate fantasy ghost town on his berry farm in Buena Park, then turned around and used his money to buy a real ghost town in the California desert, which was then sort of remade and reborn almost as a sequel to the Knott's Berry Farm ghost town. So Calico was built to resemble Ghost Town, which was built to resemble Calico. Look at this, the old drugstore that Walter Knott built here. Look inside at that mannequin. Reminds me a lot of early Knott's Berry Farm.
Hey, dummy, your cigars are getting all dusty.
Stupid dummy, wasting cigars. Walking around here today, it's hard to separate what Walter Knott built from what was actually here beforehand. Authentic mud brick and adobe ruins and old mining equipment are nestled up right snugly to things like this. The old Calico bottle house. Now out in the desert, it's true that timbers were expensive and hard to come by. So miners would use old barrels and tin cans and even bottles in the construction of different places for them to live. And there's actually an authentic old bottle house out in Rhyolite, Nevada that Walter Knott modeled for building his bottle house at Knott's Berry Farm. And of course, once he bought his real ghost town, Walter Knott had to have a bottle house here too. Now, I'm out in Calico today because I was invited to be here by my friend Ernie. His company HauntedOC.com arranged for this whole crazy event where people are gonna come spend the night at Calico and go on a paranormal ghost tour. So to beat traffic, I thought I would come ahead of the rest of the group since I was invited to go. I'm gonna go on their ghost tour at night. And honestly, it's kind of creepy out here. There's not too many people out in Calico today. Look at this right here. Here we have the entrance to the Maggie mine, which was a real silver mine underneath Old Calico. The main street of Old Calico is right there. There were all kinds of other downtown businesses here. Even this actually was the Chinatown for Calico. Hundreds of Chinese laborers lived right down there. And in between the houses and the businesses and underneath our very feet, there were all kinds of mine shafts. The Maggie mine's where the famous Old Calico Glory Hole is. The Glory Hole is where $64,000 worth of silver was taken. In today's money, that would be millions and millions of dollars. So right there you have an authentic 1880s silver mine. Look at that, with all different kinds of mining equipment, all displayed for people to learn about mining. And then literally right next door, you have the depot for the little miniature train. The Calico and Odessa Railroad. This guy keeps freaking me out. I keep seeing him over my shoulder out of the corner of my eye. Look at that. That is pure Knott's Berry Farm concrete cowboy right there. And speaking of Knott's Berry Farm, forever the symbol of Knott's Berry Farm was that old prospector with his mule. The concrete statue of him stood out on the corners of the main streets outside Knott's Berry Farm. And so of course Calico Ghost Town has got to have one too. Look at that concrete prospector. Hey, where's my mule? Oh, he's right there. Wait a second. Jimmy Stewart? That's not just me, right? This guy looks just like Jimmy Stewart.
Well, hey, I can mine for silver if I want. We can't let Potter get the town. We can't let Potter drive all the townspeople away and get our mules.
No, we can't, Jimmy Stewart.
Well, I know what we ought to do, Mr. Mule. We ought to take this pickaxe and get old Potter in the head.
What?
Yeah, we'll just get old Mr. Potter right in the head with this pickaxe. That's what we'll do.
Whoa, the Wild West was violent. I love wandering around Calico. Look at all these old mining carts and wagons. The funny part is, knowing Walter Knott, those could have come from a real ghost town somewhere far away. They could have come from downtown Los Angeles, or they could have just been fakes made in the 50s. That's kind of one of the things I like about Calico, though. It's one of those places where the facts never get in the way of having a good time. Look at this. This here is the ruins, supposedly, of the old Calico Chinatown, and
Smells like archaeology.
Look at that. You can see all the rocks and old bits of wood stuck in the walls. Hey, there used to be a big metal Chinese bathtub right here. What happened to it? I'm trying to kill time here. I was hoping to take a bath.
I guess I'll just have to be like a chinchilla, take a dust bath.
Oh, that was mostly rocks. It's creepy right now because with the sound of the wind out here and very few tourists walking around, it almost feels like the town is abandoned again. Kind of peaceful out here. Nice place to take a rest. Especially here in the rest room. Get it? Wow, look at this old-timey outhouse right here. I've seen a lot of Wild West outhouses, both real and fake. This one looks real to me, and the reason I say that is because of how worn the edges of the seat are right there. Also the fact that there's a big underground pit under this thing, and smells like mines. I love this place. Even though most of it was added to the old site of Calico by Walter Knott, that guy was obsessed with the Old West, the way it looked, the way it felt. He would travel all over the country looking for old mining relics and old wagon wheels. And usually when he did create replicas of things, he would not only weather them so that they looked old, he would also make sure that they were made the same way that the originals were made. This here is one of the original buildings, the Lucy Lane home. Lucy Lane lived here in Calico on and off between the 1880s, I think, and the 1960s. She grew up and got married in Calico, and her husband John Lane opened up a grocery store right here. Again, even I get confused with what's real and what's fake in Calico, but I'm pretty sure this was the original Lane's grocery store. Once this place dried up and became a ghost town, the Lanes moved away, but quickly moved back to retire here, and I think they moved back into their old grocery store. Oh, check it out. You can still buy stuff in here. Ooh la la, look at all this stuff. Undoubtedly, some of the stuff in this store is probably original to the town. Walter Knott was notorious for going and finding old things from old stores that had never been sold and putting them on display. Look at all that old merchandise back there. Once upon a time, Knott's Berry Farms General Store had a ton of old merchandise as well. Ooh, old coffee grinder.
Wait!
Oh, that was close. I almost touched you there. Sorry. Didn't know you were too old. Dang, someday I'm gonna have a sign like that. Wow, look at all the swag in here. And the creepy mannequins. That's fun. Oh, and creepy dolls too. Super neat. Ooh, look at the back. My favorite Wild West joke. Baby rattlers. That feels good. That fire in there. You wouldn't think so by looking at the desert out there, but it's actually freaking freezing today. Look at all this old stuff in here. I really want one of these things. I keep looking for one. What are they called? Stereoscopes, I think? They take these old stereo photos and make them look 3D. Kind of like a Viewmaster. That's cool. I've never seen this stuff before. Old antiques from the citizens of Calico. Look at that top hat. Mr. Dapper? No, this top hat and leather hat box belonged to Judge Foley. Oh, he was an old-timey judge in Las Vegas. See? Real old stuff, but not from here. You just never know. That's cool. Good place for artifacts. Basket. Metallica would love this. It's so metal. I really need to get more metal jokes. That's so crazy. Can you imagine coming out here through the desert, opening your store up here to sell stuff to miners, and then eventually they dig up all the silver and they all move away. And you can either move away with the rest of them towards the next boomtown, or stick around and watch your hometown almost literally crumble into dust. Lucy and John Lane that lived in there moved away for a while, but they couldn't resist the call of the wild. She was living here when Walter Knott bought the town and turned it into what it is today, which is cool because she saw it go from real town to total ghost town to tourist town. Look at this. I love stuff like this. You got the old ore cart sitting here in front of this facade for an old West building.
Oh, shucks. Sam's Hardware is closed. Looks like they went bankrupt. Wait a minute. This is Sam's Hardware. Who the heck is Mike?
Now, if you're not from California or not familiar with the California desert, you might not know that there's actually hundreds and hundreds of towns like Calico around the desert. But unlike this one, where some of the buildings have been restored and preserved, 99.99999% of them, nothing's left but foundations, rocks, maybe some rusty old cans, and that's it. So it'd be easy to make fun of the cheesy panning for gold and the old popcorn cart over here. But when you do stuff like that, then you have the money to actually preserve things like this. Old adobe walls and structures and old doors and old things that even if they don't 100% accurately tell the story of the Old West, at least they're fun. They can inspire kids and get people stoked on thinking about and maybe reading about the Old West again. And personally, I think anything that can get people interested in history can't be all bad. Oh, look at this old building here. The Zenda Mining Company. Ooh. This building's been here since 18 1987. It's built of rammed earth. That was the expression I was forgetting, that like kind of adobe, muddy, smashed up mixture of stuff. It seems like you'd want to build your houses and stuff out of wood, but in the Old West, almost every mining town burned down at least once. Think about it, all the campfires and the pipes, little smoke on the pipes, and then they had the candles and old oil lamps and whatnot. Pretty easy to start fires back then, which is why every major ghost town, including Calico, burned down. So really, having a dirt house was an advantage. Much more fireproof. See, look at that. Miners back in the day had to dig all that crap out from under the ground using candles for light. Crawl into an old dark mine or cave somewhere, or go in your dark garage and light a little candle. Try walking around with it and using it for light without burning your house down. Now imagine yourself dozens, even hundreds of feet under the earth with the ceiling only held up by old rickety wooden timbers. There's dynamite all around you being used to blast out the mountain later, and the roof could cave in at any second, and all you have for light are little flickering candles. Seems kind of like a horror movie to me. Matter of fact, speaking of fires, Calico's still susceptible to fire. Some of these buildings burned down in like 2000 something. Pretty sure a lot of this stuff at the upper end of town burned down and had to be rebuilt. Clearly not this staircase though. Not this staircase. Sheesh, can you see that down there? That old rickety wooden walkway leading all the way from the lower parking lot all the way up the hill. Ugh. Unsafe stairway, huh? Huh. Really?
Can't think why they would call it unsafe.
You can buy all kinds of ice cream and fudge up here now. There's a couple of restaurants up here, some popcorn carts. Not a lot open at the moment because as you can see, it's kind of a slow day in town. Up here at the tippy top of the town, under those giant Calico letters on that hill up there, that was the site of the King Silver Mine. I'm pretty sure it was called the Big Silver Mine in Calico. There's still thousands and thousands of feet of tunnels up there, but the north end of town, off limits. Some of the county employees actually get to live up there in the town of Calico so they can keep an eye on things. Some of their houses are built on old tailings pulled out of the mines. That is pretty epic. There's still millions of dollars worth of silver under their houses and in that mountain behind them. Unfortunately, it would cost millions of dollars to get that silver out of the rocks and out of the mountain. So for now, there it sits. Forever, maybe. This is really cool. I never knew this before. According to this sign over here up against these cliffs used to be something called the Hyena House Hotel. It was made out of barrels and used holes in the cliff as some of the rooms for the hotel. That was in the early days of Calico when most people were just living out of tents, so that was high class living back there. I'd always sort of wondered whether some of these shacks were actually real things that were actually at Calico or just at other places that Walter Knott had built. But apparently stuff like this at Calico is legit, historically accurate. See, Knott's Berry Farm has announced that very soon all the peek-in characters from their buildings in Ghost Town, you'd peek in and see those mannequins in there, usually carved out of wood. They've announced that all those characters are going to be auctioned off sometime, I think in January. I'm sure there will be plenty of collectors bidding, but I always thought it would be really cool if someone could bid on the peek-ins from Knott's Berry Farm and then donate them to Calico. Especially since Calico Ghost Town is really continuing the tradition of the original Knott's Berry Farm Ghost Town. Like, look at that. You see that building right there? That is the Mystery Shack. Once upon a time, that was one of the most popular things at Knott's Berry Farm. It's been long since torn up at Knott's, but luckily they have a clone of it here in Calico. Look at this. Super weird. Calico's normally not too busy, but look at this. Nobody. It's actually kind of spooky like this, and I can hear some people still wandering around down in the town. It's gonna be even creepier at night on the ghost tour. Unfortunately, it'll probably be too dark to film at night, so we're not gonna get to see the ghost tour together. But I knew if I was gonna come out here early anyways, I might as well bring you guys along for some adventure. See, look at this here. There's this giant boulder, and then there's this rock wall built in front of it to make like a miner's cabin. This really did used to happen. Sometimes miners would just dig holes in the dirt and then put a canvas flap over the top. Walter Knott and his homies would come out here and explore Calico, and they would notice the very bottom of the foundation for stuff like this, and then they would build up on top of it to recreate something like this. Check it out, this one's got an old drain pipe coming out of it. And if you climb up to look inside of it, there's actually like a kitchen table and stuff in there. See, this is what I'm saying. Wouldn't it be cool if there were some peek-in characters in these? All right, the town closes in about 30 minutes and the sun's going down, so I gotta wind things up. Hopefully, I'll be back here really soon. Maybe I can drag some of my friends out here with me for some wild times in the Wild West. I was planning on coming here today and running around like a lunatic and having a crazy time. But once I got here today, man, it's been so quiet and still, and it's so empty that I'm kind of awestruck with the serenity of it all. I mean, it is really peaceful and calm out here. Like I said, Calico is halfway between Los Angeles and Las Vegas. So if you're coming out to Disneyland and thinking about going to Vegas for a while, I would definitely stop and pay a visit
To old Calico. Old-fashioned fun for the whole family.
because nothing says family entertainment like death.
Man, that guy hanging there is so scary. He petrified this wood.
First it was afraid, it was petrified, then it laid there like a rock because this old here cowboy died.
Plenty of souvenir shops up here if you want to buy some rocks or maybe a rubber dinosaur.
Or maybe you want to play some chess and enjoy your freedom.
The freedom to enjoy the peace pipe?
And the freedom to rock on with infinite justice.
Buy a horse thief poster.
Say howdy to an old cigar Indian. Maybe get a fun pick. Where's the key?
Ooh, or an even funnerer pick.
Funnerer? That's not a word. I deserve this.
Enjoy some creepy old miner pecans.
Oh, excuse me, that weren't just any old miner.
That's Polecat Pete's residence.
Yep, there's a lot of stuff to see in Calico. And if you look close, a lot of stuff to learn.
Yep, this place really is dynamite.
Oh, check it out. I forgot about this place. We can come in here and see the way it used to be. Oh, you used to have your choice of ways to take a bath. You could either sit in one of these and have some lady dump water on you, very embarrassing there, or you could get in one of these, a wooden bathtub. This one was fun because afterwards you could play the game of pick out the splinters. Oh, they used to have little tiny pianos and great big spinning wheels. But most of all, what I've learned from this place is that the way it used to be was really, really creepy. See what I'm saying?
Ugh, Grandma needs a new hairdo.
And the other thing I've taken away from today is that apparently,
Back in the Old West.
people really like to check out other dudes' necks.
Well, land sakes, if that isn't the finest neck I've seen today.
Take a good look, pard. That's a neck like you ain't never seen before.
Wow, this is the craziest thing. I'm gonna have to call the missus to come see this.
Yep, I've been working on my neck muscles in the mine.
You don't say. You've been working out your neck?
Yes, sirree.
I've been working out my double chin. Look how good I can do it. Look at me.
Sorry there, partner. I actually can't look. Turns out my neck is stuck this way. Part of the mining and all, you know.
Oh, shucks, you don't have to explain. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly how it used to be.
Well, looks like the sun is going down in old Calico.
Thanks for coming along with me out here. It's kind of cold and lonely and honestly kind of creepy out here.
I'm glad I had you guys along for the adventure.
We'll definitely be back soon. But in the meantime, I'd like to leave you with this parting thought.
Who in the world was Dr. R. Rhea?
And when did Dr. R. Rhea die? R. Rhea die? When did R. Rhea die? R. Rhea die? R. Rhea die? R. Rhea die? Question mark.
Thanks for watching, partner.
And remember, go easy on that sarsaparilla.
Thank you all for watching and coming along with me to the Old West.
Ooh.
Now that is a tasty sarsaparilla. You want some, Walter Knott?
You want some? He doesn't want any. What'd I tell you, huh? Pretty creepy when it's just a candle down here. And what if your candle went out? Pretty dark and scary. What's that sound? Do you guys hear that? What is that? Weird noise.